So the PAC group, I'm based out of the DC office, and the main function of our group is to kind of work across the corporate space, but also the policy space. So in terms of what my day to day looks like, I often will start out the morning with reviewing media monitoring reports that go out to the clients on a daily basis, and then after that, usually I'll have an internal meeting and then a client meeting, where I'll be able to kind of see what issues are on the table for the day, and then kind of navigate that space. Oftentimes there will be media pitching involved. So lots of times I'll put together media pitches, pitch reporters, and then also do a end of day wrap up summary as well. But no day is the same. So generally, I can wake up thinking I'll be doing this, and we have to kind of pivot quickly as, our clients have a crisis or something, that takes priority.
So what's the client work like? Like what are you actually doing? What's been the most interesting thing?
One of my most interesting projects has been pertaining to counterfeit medication. So we are working with one of our clients to kind of build out a campaign for early next year based off of, earned media, social media, as well as, potentially starting a coalition to kind of advance those efforts at the policy level and with other key opinion leaders, which has been really exciting. Hearing about such an interesting area of the healthcare space, and an issue that's really important in terms of patient safety and, keeping bad actors out of the healthcare space.
Yeah, I'm sure that keeps you super busy. What if,
Yes,
so
definitely.
let's kind of talk a little. I would love to hear more about the transition for you from, you know, prior to, you know, deciding to go down this path and coming in. What did you wish you knew, or what did you learn?
Yeah, definitely. So I graduated from undergrad in 2019, and I had an idea that I wanted to be in PR, public affairs, based off of internship experience. So I moved down to DC and started at another firm, and then came over to BCW in July. And I would say, you know, one of the things that I wouldn't have guessed about it is how like in a large agency, how intertwined the practices can be. I work a lot with people in the corporate practice and the brand practice. Um, and before, I was more siloed in public affairs. So I like how you can kind of see different areas of the agency and be able to work on a variety of things. Um, and I was not a PR major in undergrad. I actually majored in public policy and law, because I went to a small liberal arts college. We didn't have, business or PR as, opportunities at that level. But I think there's a lot of skills you can take from any undergrad degree, and apply them in the PR space, especially, with strong writing skills, being able to communicate well, both verbally and written, are super important. So I think, for those who are not PR majors, I think there's a lot of opportunity to come into the PR space, without, previous experience.
What in making your decision from, you know, from the college life into professional life, were there tools and resources that, like, you said, "Oh my goodness, I'm glad I had that," or that you leveraged that you found helpful?
Yeah, I would say networking with alumni from your college, and also, people you might know who are in the industry is super helpful, just to get an idea of, what you might be interested in, and, what would be most useful, to prepare, jumping into the professional field, whether it's PR or, really any other industry. And also, reading about industries you're interested in is super valuable as well, just so you kind of know what's going on. And when you're in front of the right people, you can, have a productive conversation. I think that's super important as well.
What was the biggest thing to get used to coming to either BCW or any company that you've worked with?
I would say coming in, being able to manage a variety of work streams, in a fast-paced environment. When I started, back 2 years ago, when I started working professionally, I think just being able to stay organized was, a challenge when you have, clients sometimes even with competing priorities. And then also when I came over to BCW, being able to navigate, on your teams on a global scale versus just in one city, because previously most of the people I worked with were in the DC office. So here, I'll work with people in Brussels. I've had to work with people in our Singapore office. And now I'm working with some people in Latin America. So I think being able to navigate and also, remember people are on different time zones and learn how to navigate different cultural differences as well is super important.
So we're getting close to the end of the year. What are some of the things that you want to learn as you're moving forward, or you want to kind of dig into more?
I'm looking forward to being brought into some new business opportunities. I really have an interest in doing the initial research and doing new business pitches. So I'm hoping that I can be on some of those moving forward to kind of see that side of the business and see how we win big and expand also existing client portfolios.
So if you had a wish, what pitch would you dream to be on if you could be on any pitch at all?
Um, I would love to be on a big tech pitch. Technology is one of my, um, you know, key interests. So I would love to see, a big tech company come in with some sort of, crisis or public affairs issue and, see how, what issues they're prioritizing right now in such a digital world, and seeing how COVID is, we've seen this digital transformation as well. So I would love to be on one of those types of pitches.
Oh, cool. Tell me about how you would describe your coworkers, and how do you navigate relationships
Yeah.
at
Well,
BCW?
first, I would say everybody at BCW is super friendly. No matter what their level is, everybody really works to make sure, we're united as a team and that everybody, has a clear path forward and, can navigate client issues easily. And then also team wise, I feel like everybody is really eager to pitch in on client teams, which is super helpful. So, if you get pulled to another client emergency, somebody oftentimes can help support you so you're not feeling overwhelmed, and that we can be successful. So I would say the people at BCW are awesome, and I feel like we're able to accomplish a lot because of the teamwork that is part of our culture.
So any tricky client situations and how you got on the other side of that you can share?
Yeah. So going back to my healthcare, my fun project is also very challenging because, obviously the client's legal team is very involved in and they're very careful about what they say. So, sometimes we've come up with either media pitches or messaging campaigns, and we get to the finish line right before we're about to activate, and legal, really pushes the brakes on it because it needs to go through additional review. So at times that can be kind of frustrating and difficult to navigate. But I think in the end, it's interesting to see their perspectives, and it's easier to apply that going forward, knowing, what the legal team will let you say. So I think being able to pivot quickly and, not get worked up in the small details is can be challenging, but it works out.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, when if you're not in DC, many people may not know what public affairs is. What is crisis? I know you've seen a lot, not only in DC, but working in that practice. What are some of the misconceptions and myths about the PAC practice that you want to kind of dismantle?
That's a great question. I would say a lot of times people think public affairs is primarily grassroots advocacy. And while we do a lot of that, I would say there's also a lot more media and stakeholder engagement than people realize. Um, and on the crisis side, I feel like a lot of people have a good idea of what crisis does, but I don't think until you're in that type of a practice what the scope of it is and how large a crisis playbook or campaign can really be, just because of all of the different narratives. You kind of have to, you know, brainstorm ahead of time and hope that, you know, you're fully prepared for any external response.
So without giving out any names, of course, what's been the most interesting crisis um, work that you've seen or you've heard about?
I would say I work on a technology client who is dealing with some supply chain issues due to COVID. So, you know, and they, you know, will outsource internationally as well. So kind of navigating the tensions with US and China and the tech space has been challenging, but very interesting, because a lot of US tech companies are facing those challenges as well. So kind of seeing, you know, what competitors are doing, and then also, you know, making it unique to our specific client, and touching on all of the things that are important to them.
Yeah, that's a really great one because no matter where you are, everyone is talking about supply chain. Everyone is worrying
Yeah,
about, it's always in the news, and it's a hot topic. To kind
definitely.
of round us out, what do you read? What do you look at to stay current, to stay relevant in your job?
Yeah, I have a lot of news outlets sending me push notifications each morning, so I can stay on top of issues that are specific to my clients. But then also, I'll subscribe to the Axios newsletters. They have a great technology one that they push out every morning that's super useful. And then also scanning on Twitter can be helpful for breaking news that, you know, reporters might not have an actual story out, but you'll be able to have a firsthand glance of what's going to come in and how that might impact your work.
Oh, I didn't see that Hebo and Miller were on this call. Feel free to ask a question if you have before we jump in 30 seconds.
Yeah, as a generalist, how, with like many different sectors and industries, how do you deal with a crisis situation without knowing everything about tech or healthcare or all the other things?
That's a really good question. You know, coming in, healthcare was one of the industries I didn't know as much about. So, you know, honestly, diving in quickly and reading all of the materials you can upfront, and then honestly learning as you go is the best way to navigate that.